To get his revenge, Amleth branded himself with the mark of a slave using a red-hot iron. Disguised as a captive, he threw himself into the sea and swam toward a ship, preparing to sail to Iceland, carrying enslaved people. While the crew was busy handling the sails, he quietly climbed aboard and blended into the crowd. That night, a woman named Olga recognized that he was no ordinary slave, but a Viking warrior in disguise. Still, she chose to stay silent, as if she sensed their fates were somehow connected. The ship was soon swallowed by a violent storm, drifting for days before finally reaching the harsh shores of Iceland. Waiting there was Fjolnir, now known as the Brotherless, along with his men. To survive what was coming, Olga realized they would have to trust each other. After arriving at the settlement, Amleth deliberately drew attention to himself. He made sure the overseers noticed his strength. A guard forced his mouth open to inspect his teeth, then struck him hard in the stomach. Amleth did not react at all, and that alone proved his value. Because of that, he was kept as a laborer, while Olga was sent away to work in the kitchens and laundry. From that point on, Amleth took on the harshest tasks, hauling heavy stones and clearing land without rest. But his purpose kept him going. Every moment was part of a larger plan. As he worked, he carefully observed the settlement, until one day he finally saw Fjolnir through a window, being cared for by Queen Gudrun, his own mother. Even then, Amleth held himself back. He knew rushing in would only lead to failure. Following the guidance of a seeress, he set out to find a weapon tied to his destiny, the cursed ghost sword known as Draugr. That night, he entered a hidden burial mound, where he found a corpse seated on a throne, gripping the blade. But the moment he reached for it, the guardian of the mound came to life. The fight was brutal. The creature moved with unnatural speed, but Amleth relied on his strength and instincts. Slowly, he turned the tide and defeated it, finally claiming the sword. Even with the weapon in his hands, he knew it was not the right time. The guards were too many and the risk was too high. So he hid the sword within the roof, choosing to wait, to weaken Fjolnir from the shadows. After all, this was not a fleeting anger. This was a revenge that had been building inside him for decades. Years earlier, in the North Atlantic around the year 895, Amleth was still just a child, waiting for the return of his father, King Arvandil. When the king finally arrived with his warriors, Amleth was overwhelmed with joy and rushed to tell his mother, Queen Gudrun. Arvandil was welcomed with great celebration, and as a symbol of his victory, he gave Amleth a precious necklace taken from the battlefield. Not long after, King Arvandil's brother, Fjolnir, arrived. Known for his cruelty, he was also one of the king's most trusted warriors. He came with his infant son, Thorir, and that night, they celebrated their victory with a grand feast. Because Arvandil had been badly wounded in battle, he began preparing Amleth to inherit the throne. He brought his only son to a sacred place, where they took part in a strange ritual. They acted like wolves and drank a special potion given by a seer. From that moment, Amleth was no longer just a child. He was given a purpose. Arvandil made it clear that if he were ever killed, Amleth must avenge him or live in dishonor for the rest of his life. As part of the ritual, Amleth touched his father's wound and was granted a vision of the kings who came before him. Soon after, they began their journey back through the forest. But on the way, a group of mounted warriors suddenly attacked from a distance. Arrows rained down, and Arvandil told Amleth to run. Amleth could only watch as his father was surrounded. The attackers wore masks, but their leader revealed the truth. It was Fjolnir. The betrayal was real, and it was deliberate. Even in his final moments, Arvandil showed no fear. He cursed Fjolnir, declaring that his stolen throne would not last, and that his death would be avenged. Without hesitation, Fjolnir ended his life. After Arvandil's death, his followers immediately turned their loyalty to Fjolnir, praising him as the new king. Soon after, Fjolnir ordered them to hunt down and kill Amleth. And this is where his story begins. This is the Northman. Hearing his uncle's command, Amleth hid in a small hole, trying to stay out of sight. But he was discovered and nearly killed. Still, as the son of a king, he fought back. With a quick move, he slashed a soldier's nose and escaped. When he returned to the kingdom, everything had already changed. His father's loyal followers were gone, and Queen Gudrun had been taken by Fjolnir and forced to become his wife. To survive, Amleth disguised himself in a red cloak. Not long after, the wounded soldier reported back, falsely claiming that Amleth had died at sea, afraid of being punished for failing his mission. Meanwhile, Amleth had already fled, sailing alone across the open ocean. As he drifted through the vast waters, he held on to a single promise. He would avenge his father, rescue his mother, and one day kill Fjolnir. Years later, in the land of Rus, known today as Russia, Amleth had grown into a hardened warrior. Alongside a small group of Viking fighters, he took part in a brutal raid to conquer a fortified settlement. They charged the outer walls without hesitation, cutting down anyone in their path. Among them, Amleth stood out the most. Years of training and survival had shaped him into something relentless, both in strength and skill. That night, after the battle was won, Amleth sensed something unusual inside one of the houses. There he encountered a mysterious seeress who reminded him of the vow he had made long ago to avenge his father. As suddenly as she appeared, she vanished, leaving him with a clear purpose once again. The next morning, the captured survivors were gathered to be sold as slaves. Some of them were destined to be sent to Iceland, the very place where Fjolnir now lived. Hearing that name, Amleth began to piece everything together. Fjolnir, his uncle, was now known as Fjolnir the Brotherless. He no longer ruled a great kingdom, but instead led a smaller clan in Iceland with his wife and son. The once powerful throne had already fallen, just as Arvandil had foretold before his death. In that moment, Amleth realized something he had never expected. His chance for revenge was finally within reach. Back in the present, after successfully hiding his sword, Amleth chose to wait patiently. He knew the right moment would come. One day, Fjolnir organized a brutal competition among the slaves. It resembled a game, but it was far more violent. The rules were simple. The last one standing would secure victory for his side. In the final round, only Amleth and a massive opponent remained. As the fight reached its peak, Fjolnir's young son, Gunnar, got caught up in the chaos and grabbed the ball, putting himself in danger. Without hesitation, Amleth stepped in and saved the boy from being killed. That single act changed everything. From that point on, he earned the trust of those around him. His workload was reduced, his status among the slaves was raised to a coordinator, and he was even given the freedom to choose a woman for himself. But none of that mattered to him. Deep down, there was only one thing driving him forward, which was revenge. On a quiet night, Amleth met Olga in the forest, and for a brief moment, the weight of his mission seemed to fade. They grew closer, sharing something real in the middle of all the chaos surrounding them. After that, Amleth returned to his role as a slave coordinator. With his new position, he gained access to more areas and learned the routines of the guards. Once he understood the layout, he made his move. That same night, the first attack began. 2 guards were killed and their bodies were arranged in a disturbing way, meant to send a message. At the same time, 2 others were brutally tortured, all without anyone knowing who was behind it. Fear quickly spread across the settlement. In that era, people still believed strongly in spirits and dark forces, so Fjolnir ordered the slaves to stand watch at night, convinced that something supernatural was responsible. This was exactly what Amleth had been waiting for. Working together with Olga, he secretly poisoned the food, causing the guards to lose control and turn on themselves. The chaos only strengthened the belief that evil spirits were at work. While everything was falling apart, Amleth slipped into the main house to finally confront his mother. The moment was nothing like he had imagined. Instead of relief or warmth, the truth shattered everything he believed. Queen Gudrun revealed that she had never loved Arvandil. She had been a slave forced into marriage, treated as nothing more than a possession. In her eyes, Amleth was never a child she wanted, but a reminder of a life she hated. Now the only people she truly cared about were Fjolnir and her son Gunnar, and the truth went even deeper. It was Gudrun who had pushed Fjolnir to kill Arvandil in the first place. For Amleth, this was more painful than any wound. Even so, he could not bring himself to kill her. Instead, his rage turned toward Thorir. After that, he found Olga and told her everything. He knew his identity would soon be exposed, and there was no time left. He planned to escape, but not before finishing what he had started. He swore to destroy Fjolnir, his mother, and everything they held dear. The next day, Fjolnir was devastated to find his eldest son dead, his heart missing. Gudrun revealed the truth, that this was not the work of spirits, but Amleth, still alive and hiding among the slaves. Driven by fury, Fjolnir began killing slaves at random, searching for anyone connected to Amleth. Eventually, he discovered that Olga had been helping him all along. Just as Olga was about to be executed, Amleth appeared and launched a desperate attack. But he was outnumbered. He was quickly overpowered and forced to his knees, while Olga managed to escape. From there, Amleth was subjected to brutal torture. Fjolnir demanded to know where Thorir's heart had been taken. But no matter how much pain he endured, Amleth refused to speak, and as long as he stayed silent, Fjolnir could not bring himself to kill him. That night, Fjolnir held a funeral ritual for Thorir, sacrificing a young girl as part of the ceremony. When it was over, he prepared to execute Amleth. But before that could happen, Amleth managed to escape with Olga's help, revealing that she was not just a slave, but a sorceress. She took him to a mystical place where his wounds were healed in a short time. For the first time, Amleth began to question his path. He realized that continuing his revenge could put Olga's life at risk, so he chose to walk away and leave with her in search of safety. While sailing away, Amleth kissed the wound on Olga's neck, and suddenly he was struck by a vision. He saw the future of his bloodline, a vision of the royal tree of Valhalla. In that moment, he understood that after his death, his legacy would live on through twin children born from Olga. Overwhelmed with emotion, he learned that Olga was carrying his children, but that realization also brought a new fear. As long as Fjolnir lived, Olga and their future would never be safe. Because of that, Amleth made his final decision. He would return and finish what he started. Despite Olga trying to stop him, his resolve did not waver. He gave her his necklace, shared a final moment with her, and turned back toward Fjolnir's stronghold. When he arrived, he showed no mercy. One by one, the guards fell, and the enslaved people were finally set free. Realizing the danger, Fjolnir told his family to flee, but Gudrun and Gunnar chose to stay and fight, and both of them were killed by Amleth. Seeing his family gone, Fjolnir took their bodies and retreated, challenging Amleth to a final duel at a place known as the Gate of Hell. At the same time, the freed slaves burned the entire settlement to the ground. The final battle had arrived. Amleth reached the mountain and found the bodies of his mother and Gunnar lying at its base. He gave them one last moment of respect before moving forward. With nothing left to hold him back, he faced Fjolnir in the heart of the volcano. The fight was brutal. Amleth was already wounded and pushed to his limits, taking multiple strikes, but he refused to fall. With everything he had left, he pressed forward until he finally struck Fjolnir down, taking his life at the same moment his own heart was pierced. As he lay dying, Amleth saw a vision of Olga and their children, safe and beyond the reach of his enemies. After a lifetime of pain and sacrifice, the son of King Arvindil had finally fulfilled his destiny. His revenge was complete, and his bloodline would live on to carry the legacy of Valhalla. So the moral of the story is, if your life plan takes 20 years, involves pretending to be a slave, fighting zombies, and burning villages, maybe just try therapy first.